Salve. Welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is an update on my learning of Latin. So back in November of 2022, really just a few months ago, I had posted a video about my plans to learn the language of Latin, specifically to read Latin. I don't have much interest necessarily in speaking Latin. Of course, it is, technically what you consider a dead language, but I wanted to be able to read it. And ever since I was young and I first learned about Latin and the Roman Empire and Roman history, I've always had an interest in Latin, but I never got the opportunity to actually take Latin classes. They always kind of became unavailable to me at the point when I was ready to be able to take them. So last summer, I had ended up getting COVID for a little while. I was laid up. I found myself on my phone a lot, kind of playing games, and I wanted to make better use of my time. So that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of me deciding to use my time, at least some of my time, to language learn, and specifically Latin. One of the things that I found was that the app Duolingo had a free Latin course on it, which I was excited about. Free is always awesome. So what I plan to do was use that in conjunction with some resources that I found by researching online that I saw strongly recommended. And that was encompassed in this book, Lingua Latina, and specifically this one, Familia Romana. I don't pretend to know exactly how to pronounce things in Latin, so it's more, once again, about reading. And I was really taken with this idea. The author here, Orberg, who has passed away, he he created this system where this entire book, except for the copyright page, is in Latin. So right from the very beginning, you are learning Latin, but it starts off in extremely basic Latin with a lot of text that's kind of intuitive that you can figure out what it means. And then each chapter kind of adds on. It gets a little bit more complex. You get a little more complicated grammar, more vocab, that sort of thing. Along the way, you're following the story of a Roman family, a very high-class Roman family, and also a story of their slaves and some of the people that live around them. And it's a nice little treat to be able to find the story of this family. And also along the way, you're learning about Roman history and Roman culture, especially the very quotidian type of Roman life. Like, what was medical care like during that time? What was it like for, to be a pupil under a tutor? That sort of thing. So I was struck by that, and I have to say, I have been really enjoying this. Now, I'm not alone on this. After I posted that first video, I was contacted by a viewer, Sabrina. Hope she doesn't mind me using her name for this. But she contacted me through Voxer and said, hey, I also want to get into this. Do you want to basically buddy study? I said, yeah. So every single month we take a new chapter. We read through the chapter in this, and then we read through the corresponding chapter in this, which this contains Latin dialogues. And it's basically a reinforcement of the stuff that we just read in this. And it gives us a little bit of a B-plot storyline also that we keep going back through and bouncing back and forth between different characters that we're finding in the stories. And then we read the chapter in this, a companion to Familia Romana. And this gives us some explanation of the vocab, some explanation of the grammar that we've just been reading, and also it has passages that give us historical context for ancient Rome to give us more background into some of the things that we're seeing and reading in here, some of the history. So we basically will read this, and then we check in through Voxer, what we thought about it, what we learned, some things that maybe we got stuck with, that sort of thing, thought ideas that we were having. And that's been great. So I was doing that and also Duolingo for a while. However, I did ultimately exhaust Duolingo. It kind of quickly, unfortunately. Within less than 3 months, I was pretty much done with the course. And I actually kind of dragged it out as much as I could. So I had more practice. And I was still using Duolingo, and I still go back to it here and there just for some practice rounds. But Duolingo is only going to take you so far. I would actually still recommend it, especially for the very beginning stuff. There was quite a bit in Duolingo that overlapped with the first half of this book. And we're pretty much at the halfway point with this. We expect to finish this, Sabrina and I, by July. So I'm pretty much done with Duolingo, but I'm still going through this. But I wanted some other things to supplement, other things to practice with. So I was doing some more research, and I ordered some books. I'll show you a couple of the books that I got, and one of them has to do with this actually, because even though this book, the conversations book, the dialogue book, this is great. It does not go through the entirety of this. It only goes through around halfway, or a little over halfway for this. So eventually this will run out before this does. And instead of further dialogues, we have another book that belongs to the series, which I don't understand why they're all different sizes, but that's the way it is. We've got this one that we will be going on to after this. So this is Fabulae Syrae. I'm not sure, something about the tales. But it's Greek and Roman, basically mythology and tales. And it goes along with the later chapters in Familia Romana to reinforce. So once we finish this little blue book, we will be going on to this. And when we finish this, we will also be finished with, I'm trying to get through all these books, these. So all of those things will be done at the same time. So that's the first thing I picked up. But I also wanted some other things to, practice with now. So I picked up some Latin language novellas, really novelettes. I mean, novella is kind of generous to call some of these. So I'll show you the more difficult ones at first. So first I picked up this Pugio Bruti, a crime story in easy Latin. So this, I think I'll be ready for when I get further along in Familia Romana. Again, it's easy Latin. A lot of it I should be able to read without too much having to be looked up. I should also mention that just really cheaply I picked up the Latin English dictionary as well, more for things like this. So this is a crime story written in Latin. So I'm excited about this. This should be pretty good. But again, I don't think I'm quite ready for this. And I don't think I'm quite ready also for this one that I picked up, although I think I will be there when I'm further along in Familia Romana. This is Cloelia, I'm not sure. Puella Romana, a Roman girl. And this takes place early in Rome's history when they, I think when they do away with their last king, ultimately. And this is one of those ones, self-published, but written entirely in Latin, with some explanatory stuff on in the margins there. And I read really good reviews about this. I mean, the cover isn't exciting at all. There's nothing much going on there. But all the reviews that I read said that this was actually pretty good. It's pretty thrilling and riveting stuff. So I do certainly look forward to this. But I'm not quite ready for these two, although I expect within the next month or so that I'll probably be able to start diving into these. But right now, what I can start diving into is something like this. This is Ego Polyphemus, a Latin novella. This is by Andrew Olimpi, and he has a whole line of, again, these are like kind of more self-published books, and he does the illustrations as well that are found throughout. And these are all basically short Latin books that are written at various levels, and this is beginner level. And again, it's all about a cyclops named Polyphemus. And what my goal is to try and read this aloud to my daughter, basically translate it aloud. What I want to be able to do is with minimal times of, basically stopping and looking things up and trying to figure out what it says, I want to be to the point where I can basically read her the story aloud. Now, she is 6 years old, and she is learning to read, so she is reading aloud to me, and I will read aloud to her. Of course, I will be reading aloud in English and translating as I go. So that's why I picked this up, to practice a little bit more. I also wanted things that were just kind of a little more portable that I can walk around with and, practice the Latin. And if this really works, I might try and pick up some more stuff like this, just as practice. And these are all fairly inexpensive for the most part. I think this one was maybe the most expensive. This is over $10. These two are definitely under 10. But yeah, those are some of the newer books that I picked up to continue my Latin learning. So to show you those again, real quickly, we've got the, and I'm saying this wrong, I'm sure, but Fabulae Syrae. We've got Ego, whoops, these aren't working out very well, is it? Ego Polyphemus. we've got Pugio, Bruti, and finally Cloelia, Puella, Romana. Again, sorry for the terrible butchery, I'm sure, of pronunciations, but those are the things that I've picked up recently. And I'm continuing the journey for learning how to read Latin. I plan to go through this at least through the summer. I might start picking up some other types of language learning by that point. I already have a little bit on Duolingo. I tried some other things out on Duolingo. I tried the Navajo course. I wanted to learn, a little bit more for endangered Native American language, but I think that course is still in beta mode, and it needs a lot of work before I can actually feel like I'm learning anything there. So for now, actually, I started settling on French. I am learning French now on Duolingo. It is a language that I always wanted to know more about pronunciation. I did take Spanish in middle school and high school, and I took German in college. So, French, as far as the big three languages that are usually offered in American schools, French was something of a mystery to me. So I'm trying to remedy that now, and I'm using Duolingo for that. And I'm hoping that learning more and more Latin will help me along with the French language acquisition. So anyhow, that was just a quick update, somewhat quick, it's a little over 10 minutes. But that's where I am at this point with my Latin learning. And certainly when I get through more of these books, or when I'm all done with these books, I'll create another update for how things went. But anyway, thank you for watching. And as always, thank you, BookTube.